Hello, and thank you for joining us today for Breaking Boundaries. I'm Denise Griffin with Georgia State's Entrepreneurship and Innovation Institute. E&I blends education and application through a variety of offerings such as undergraduate and graduate courses, panel and guest speaker events, challenges, competitions, student organizations, and a living and learning community called eHouse. We also have a co-working space called Launch GSU, where students work on their businesses here on campus. We have partnered with the Office of Leadership Development today to bring you this live webinar. Leadership Development provides a variety of programs and services to assist students in developing their leadership potential, in addition to how they can positively influence their communities individually. Well, you didn't come here to hear about Georgia State today. So let's get started with the introductions of the people you did come to listen to today. Michelle Blue is the host of her very own program, The Journey with Blue, and she's a freedom and fulfillment coach. In addition, we have Beatrice Dixon, who is the CEO and founder of the Honey Pot Company. In advance, I'd like to thank the both of them for their sharing their knowledge with us today here at Georgia State. Now, I'll turn it over to Michelle.
Thank you, Denise. So of course, we first met in, I think, October when I did my live conversation event at Georgia State. And life was completely different then. We could actually meet in person, and as life changes, things shift, we all have to pivot along with it. So thank you to all the students who are joining online, first and foremost. And thank you, Beatrice, for joining this conversation.
Thank you.
So
Thank
how
you
are
for
you
having
doing?
me.
Yes. So for you all who are new to The Journey with Blue, and myself, my name is Michelle Blue. I'm the creator and host of a talk show about creating a fulfilled life and a business that you love. And so I started my first business 2 weeks after I graduated college, and had some great success with that, was able to travel the world, was named Mashable's Top Black-Owned Businesses Changing the World, was able to do a TED Talk sharing my story. And so many times we saw the glitz and the glamour of entrepreneurship. And I realized, I was like, you're scrolling through Instagram, I was like, this is actually not real life, you know? And so I was like, there has to be a place where we get real, where we talk about the lessons, the sacrifices, the failures along the journey, as well as the beauty in it all too. So I think this is such an important conversation that we bring to colleges around the nation, and specifically to these Georgia State students. So like I told you before, B, I was like, we're gonna get real. I was like, don't hold anything back.
I'm not one to hold much back anyway. So
trust me,
yeah.
I don't get those vibes.
I'm over here trying to like monitor myself so that a cuss word doesn't come out, but I'm gonna do my best.
Be free, just let it flow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I know we have students are 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. What was Beatrice doing at 19, 20 years old?
I was a pharmacy technician, and I was working in a hospital in Phoenix, Arizona, and I was working like in their IV rooms. I think I was managing the night shift. I think that's what I was doing. But that's what I was doing. I was a hospital pharmacy technician who was also a night manager of the pharmacy.
So did you go to college for that, or was this something that you just like fell into and life just brought your way?
Yeah, I totally didn't go to college for that. I really didn't even finish college, if I'm truthfully honest. I started it because I wanted to go to school to be a doctor, but then I realized that I really didn't want to do that. So I've never been good at doing things that I don't personally believe that I want to do and that I can put everything into. Yeah. But I just fell into it. My mom worked for Cigna. when I was younger, and she had gotten me a job. Basically, like, I had just graduated high school, and she was like, look, this is cute. I know you're going to just like take it easy with school, because I wanted to understand like where I wanted to go and all that stuff. But she was like, you have to work like a real job. So,
like most
so she
parents
got me
would
a
say.
job. Yeah. She got me a job she helped me to get the job at Cigna in their pharmacy. And that was like a retail type of pharmacy technician job. So it was totally entry level for me.
Yeah. So you said initially that you wanted, or you thought you wanted to be a doctor, and then you kind of realized that wasn't for you. So you went into pharmacy. But did you see anything of what was next? Did business even cross your mind at that point?
No, it hadn't crossed my mind at that point. At that point, I was in the thought process of, and I wasn't thinking about medical school before before being a pharmacy technician. I literally graduated from high school and then became a pharmacy technician. And it wasn't until a couple years later that you actually had to be certified in order to be a pharmacy technician in Phoenix, Arizona at that time. But no, I didn't, I wasn't entrepreneurial at that point. Nothing that I had been around had been entrepreneurial. So, it was all about like graduate from school, go back to school, get a job, type of lifestyle.
Gotcha. And, obviously this idea and notion of entrepreneurship is kind of like more like in the forefront as a new thing, right? I'm sure you didn't have those images of being able to start a business or going into your own thing at any point in life. Entrepreneurship, I think now is kind of in the forefront of the conversation, right? So like everyone is seeing that, like every 20-year-old college student that I talk to, like entrepreneurship is the main thing for them. Was that ever, like, did that ever cross your mind at that point of your life that like, oh, I could start a business?
Not then. That didn't start crossing my mind until I moved to Atlanta. I kind of got tired. I was working in a chemotherapy pharmacy. This was, I think, my last job in pharmacy before I, came into the world of natural foods and things like that. But at that point, it wasn't. I just knew at that time that my season was done in Western medicine. And, the way that I approached that was I went to Whole Foods Market and started working. And it was once I was there, that's when the entrepreneurial bug kind of stung me, because I had to do something else, because Whole Foods salary was not going to pay. It wasn't even salary. It was just an hourly gig, right?
$10 an hour.
Yeah. So I started a cleaning business and a organizing business. And I did that for a couple years while I was working at Whole Foods. It was crazy. But that's when my entrepreneurial bug got started.
Gotcha. And it was just kind of like a means of survival. You're like, I gotta live, I gotta eat, and $10 an hour is not gonna allow me to do that.
It was impossible, and I've been through a lot. I mean, in Atlanta, I wasn't homeless living on the street, but I was homeless, didn't have a home, right? Staying in hotels, sleeping in my car, staying at friends' house on their couch. That lasted for a few months, So I went through a lot of transitioning, while all of these things were going on,
Right.
And it was around like late 2011, 2012 when Honey Pot came to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to go ahead, because I didn't start off with that, because I think most people have like contacted me super excited that I'm having this conversation with you. So like everyone
sweet.
really knows what Honey Pot is, but I won't assume. So for the people who are on the line who don't know what Honey Pot is and the movement that you started, definitely make an introduction. Let the people know.
Yeah. So I am the co-founder of the Honey Pot Company. And what we do at Honey Pot is we are basically a feminine wellness company where we focus on feminine hygiene products that range from daily to monthly. We even have some really great, clean, sexual health type of products. But our products are sold in major retailers. We also sell direct to consumer, but our whole business is really based around vaginal wealth and health and well-being.
Right. And
Yeah.
so you said already that you were working at Whole Foods, that you had started this cleaning business, but that's kind of when the idea for Honey Pot came to you. Like,
Yeah.
what was that moment? How did that show up, that vision show up for you?
Well, it didn't show up for me because I was necessarily looking to get into the vagina business. It showed up because I had an infection that I couldn't get rid of. And so really it was like the issues that I was dealing with my own vagina,
Right.
kind of came to a head because it was almost a year that it would go away and come back. And one night I went to sleep and I had a dream with my grandmother, who has been dead since my mother was 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So she came to me, told me in the dream, that basically like handed me a piece of paper that had a list of ingredients. She told me, make sure you remember it when you wake up. You got to write this down because it's going to get rid of your problem, And what's crazy that I never really like thought about until just recently, how crazy is that my grandmother was with me that whole time, watched me for a year, and thought so much of me to come. She had never met me in real life, right?
Wow.
But came to me in a dream through dimensions to give me something that turned out to heal me and then turned into what is now Honey Pot.
Right.
So I think unconsciously the level of respect that you give to something where a dead person has showed up and said, do this, the thing that dead person tells you to do works. The responsibility that comes with that is crazy because you can't just you can't
dismiss that, right?
You know what
and
I
it's
mean?
such a whole nother level on such a spiritual level, right? And knowing that like you're completely supported in this thing at all times, right? Like you were going through, like you were going through a situation where it was uncomfortable, whatever, you said you were going through a vaginal.
I had bacterial vaginosis for almost a year.
Right, which is not comfortable, right? Which is something that you don't want anyone to ever experience and have to go through. And so out of like your desperation, out of your own need of like, trying to cleanse or cure yourself, this came to you. And I always say like, everything is happening for a reason, right?
It does.
And so you kind of just always have to trust that process because you don't know what the failure or the pains or whatever the current situation that you're being placed in, how it can set you up and create something so much greater. And I think that's something to even like make mention during these times, because obviously this is wild. Like we are all like shut in quarantine now for a month. And yes, we can look at it at a lens of this is the worst thing that could happen to us, or we could change our vantage point and see, well, what is this moment trying to teach me, right? Well, how is this going to get me further in life, or how do I use this time?
And how do I align with this time? Because no matter what, no matter how you think about it, everybody's going to have their own opinion. I used to believe in things like karma, and I used to believe in things like coincidence. I don't believe in that anymore. I think that no matter what is happening, everything is in complete alignment. whether it's good, bad, indifferent, melancholy, whatever, I feel like every single thing that is happening is what's happening, you know? And so, right. It's really important for us to look at everything that happens in our life and see that that you've called all those things. And that's not necessarily the things that are happening around you, right? But, you know, this type of time is beautiful because it shows that nature will do exactly what it wants to do, right? And and a thing like a virus, no matter if it's truly a virus, no matter if this truly came from China or whatever, right? Or if you're a conspiracy theorist and you think that it's all the setup, from any level of how you see this, if you're a person that's watching the news every day, or you're a person who's like, I'm not doing that, right? This affects every single human in the world at the same time. And there is no control over how this is playing out. And so for some people, it's going to be hard, you know? I think for everybody, it's hard. It's just harder for some humans based on where they are in their life, in their journey within themselves, in whatever, right? But what we should try to do is to know that things, most of the time, they work out, right? And this isn't a thing that anybody can control. All we can do is just be here for it. And you may not understand what's happening with your job. You may not be able to pay your bills. You may have lost people and humans in your family that you loved and adored, whatever. This is just what it is. We have to find a way to be able to be here and be fine with what's happening in this moment, because you can't change it.
You can't change it. It's nothing that can be done. And
nothing. Whether you're worth $0 or you're worth billions of dollars.
Right. I love that you say that. And it's really interesting because the students, I think this is the first time, I mean, this is a huge life-changing event. A lot of the students are even graduating who will not be able to walk across the stage and who will be entering into a job market that's going to look completely different. So, you know, we'll touch on that later on, but I think is really interesting to see. And I see there's a parallel in entrepreneurship and just life in general, because you can't control it. If there's something that can go wrong in business or in life,
it will go wrong.
It will go wrong. And so it's up to you to be able to pivot. It's up to you to be able to have a level of resilience and know that you're staying in the game. Like you're playing to win regardless. And that's in life and that's in business. So
it's only a moment. It's only a moment.
Right.
Most bad shit only happens in a moment. You understand? And then how do you react to the moment? You can be in a bad place in the moment, but just remind yourself, I'm going to be in this place. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be mad. I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. I'm going to cry. You just have to get to the next moment after that moment, and don't judge either moment, you know?
Yeah. I love that. Now, going back to Honey Pot, and like you said, your grandma came to you in a dream, in a vision, basically. And so you woke up the next morning, you wrote down the ingredients, which you still remembered, right? I feel like when I have dreams, it's like everything's like piecemeal.
She told me to wake up, because I wasn't dreaming that at night. I was dreaming that right before I woke up. And she said to me, wake up. And I woke up and I wrote it down. You know?
Wow.
Crazy.
That's crazy. Okay, and so you wrote it down, and then what did you do? Because everyone has ideas, everyone has inspiration, right? And what was the next step that you made for Honey Pot?
I had just made it for myself. And if it was by Monday, maybe by Friday, everything was gone. Odor was gone.
sorry guys that are in here, but I'm gonna just say it, discharge was, everything was gone.
You said in
Right?
how many days?
And maybe it was like 5 days. Maybe.
Oh, so this was like powerful. Like this,
Yeah.
was more potent than anything that you had tried from the stores that didn't work, obviously.
Yeah, because the combination of ingredients acted like a potion almost. There was a lot of the things that I was using individually, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I might have made something that had some rose oil or rose water and maybe some garlic extract or something, or I may have used like apple cider vinegar, or, you know, I was trying all these different things. But what she told me in my dream was that the problem is that I wasn't putting them all together. When all of those compounds came together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though they were natural, when all of those chemical things happened with that particular potion, that's what made for the healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after that, I just started working on myself, and I was like perfecting it, because it wasn't like she told me like how much of each of those ingredients to do. She just knew I would figure it out. Why? Because I had been a pharmacy technician before who had worked in skin compounding labs and IV rooms and chemo labs. That's what I'm saying.
Wow. Which is
great.
so wild.
Like, my whole life has been, when I really think about it, it's like my ancestors literally just like sorted me out. You know,
See,
like,
that's so crazy, because you could have never known at that point at 19, 20 as a pharmacist assistant, probably going to work like, this is not for me, like probably miserable, and not even realizing that that opportunity was setting you up for something great.
But that wasn't the only setup. There was so many other setups. Like, so I worked at Whole Foods. I worked in Whole Body, right? Me and my team were really close because the teams were small. Your team was departmental. It wasn't like everybody was your team. The people that you came to work with every day were the same people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were cool. They knew what was going on with my vagina, because I was like, we need to
You're like, I need help. Somebody help. Trust me, I've had situations, and I like ask everyone, how can I do this? What do I need to take? And everyone knows that Michelle has this issue, and it's just like, it is what it is. Because you're just like, I need help.
And it was like, I need a tribe. But, you know, like 95% of the team were women. So they knew what was going on. So what they do, anytime somebody had a vagina issue, they would send that customer to me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would sell them the things that I knew to sell them. And then I would walk them to their car so I could get them out of the store. And then I would be like, so I got this product that I made for myself. And let me know if you want to try it. So literally for like 2 years, maybe 1.5 years, I gave that away for free.
That's like this real like hustle, like grind.
It was like a hustle clinical trial. Like I was building my own clinical trial.
Yeah.
And then I realized that the product was my brother had came in by that point, because I needed money, because I didn't have any money to buy the ingredients and stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And he gave me a credit card. I used that, and I would buy the things. And then I started selling through email, because I didn't have a website. And then 2014 came, and that was time to launch it, because we had consistent people that were buying it, and it was through email. So I was like, we have to launch this. We have to get this out in the world. He helped me pull together money, his friend's money. And we bought bottles, labels, caps, machines. You know, it was like a little made up assembly line. So it literally, like, I was making this in my kitchen, right?
Yeah.
He then let me use his office space. That was an apartment. It's crazy. And then that's really how we got started. But the crazy thing is that the other ways that I was set up. So when I left Whole Foods, at Whole Foods, I learned how to talk to customers. Like if you came into the store, you were my customer.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for like almost 3 years, and I was one of their highest performing salespeople because I'm a salesperson, you know. And then an opportunity came for me to be a broker. And a broker, so anything you buy in a grocery store, 9 times out of 10 is represented by a brokerage, right?
Right.
What a brokerage does is they work for brands that need to get their products into a certain retailer.
Right.
This broker was a natural food broker. So my customers were like Whole Foods Market, Seven Nanda, you know, things like that. There was a lot more natural food stores in Georgia. A lot of them have died, but that was the type of thing that I did. But the dope thing is what I learned from doing that is now I learned how to talk to a buyer, because you weren't my customer anymore when I was a broker. Now Whole Foods was my customer.
Right. Now,
Then
before we get into that, though, because you're about to go deep into the conversation. And
no, I'm trying. What I'm trying to explain to you is that the alignment of it was crazy, you know, because you'll do better as a consumer packaged good founder if you have the experience of how to talk to a customer, how to talk to a buyer, how to manage it. You know what I mean?
Right. Agreed.
Yeah, and all that was gifted to me, really.
Right. And even for, you know, a lot of the students who are in maybe part-time jobs or maybe have to take a full-time job that is not exactly what they want to do, I always say find purpose where you're planted, right? And there's always something that a situation can give you regardless of what it is. It may not be the thing that you absolutely love and have envisioned for yourself, but there's something that you can take from it, and it's something that's going to take you further for whatever you do next. But you know, a lot of times, you know, as entrepreneurs, we're like, okay, I have the idea. And the next thing is first the money, but also you feel like you get so overwhelmed with, I need the website, I need the logo, I need all these things. So I love that you were like, no, I didn't even have a website. Like I literally started with email. Like you was like, I have an email. People email me their orders, and that's how we're going to like move this product and get paid.
That was all we had. You know, I think you just have, in today's day and age, it's really tough because all brands have websites now. Like what I'm talking about was happening in 2012, 2013, when their website and direct to consumer was a thing, but it wasn't as much of a thing as it is today, you know?
Right.
But it is important to understand that you just need to start where you start.
Right.
And
it's a level of scrappiness that you have, right? You were like,
you have to have scrappiness, otherwise it won't work.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we get so stunted because we think we have to have the big whatever, shiny whatever right off. And that's just not how it works for most people. Yes, there are some people who get the $1 million investment right off, but for majority of entrepreneurs, that's not the case.
Right. And you really don't want that to be the case. You really shouldn't ask anybody for their money unless you know, A, that your thing works, whatever the thing is that you do. If it's a product that it works wherever it's on your skin, in your belly, however it needs to work. And then it takes time to understand how you're going to talk to a customer. Now, if you're a person who's done this before, right? And you've worked for a company and you've seen it and you've worked in that field, that's a different conversation. But if you're a person who's never done this before, right? I'm always a proponent of put your skin in the game. You know, don't figure out how to bootstrap that thing yourself. Because what that does is it creates practice that you're going to need in order to be successful. Right? Even if somebody gives you $1 million, it is remarkably surprising how fast $1 million goes. Like $1 million sounds.
Right. A lot of people
It's,
that get the $1 million
yeah.
actually waste the $1 million.
But that's my point. If you've been lean and scrappy, you would know what you needed to spend $100,000 on, right? You need to figure out what to do with $10,000. What would you do with that? How do you turn 10,000 into 100,000, right? And then how do you turn 100,000 into $1 million?
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to do that, if you've never done it before, is really hard to do. It's really hard to get from 0 to 100, and then from 100 to $1 million. Your first $1 million is your hardest one to make, you know? And you're gonna make so many mistakes.
Right. And that's inevitable.
Yeah,
It's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And
now,
you just want to respect other people's money. Don't ask somebody for their money if you don't know how to build a marketing strategy, if you don't understand what a supply chain is. You got to go to school for that. And not even like a lot of people here are business majors, right? So they're going to learn that kind of stuff. But what you learn in school compared to the shit that really happens,
I know it's completely different.
But it's still essential if you've learned it. You know, like if you've learned it, you're further ahead than the average person, right? But it still is going to look different in the real world.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I definitely want to make sure, like, first of all, Georgia State is doing a great job with providing so many resources and even money, capital for these students. I believe just maybe 2 months ago, Jackie and the entrepreneurship program, you all gave like $10,000 away. I'm not quite sure on the numbers, but it was significant numbers and significant impact that they're making in these students' businesses. And so, like I was saying, when I was in business school, we always learned you get money from friends, family, and fools, right? And so
in the beginning, friends and family is your first round.
That's what you have to do. And so you mentioned that you went in business with your brother. You brought him on as a founder. How much did you need in the beginning to start?
When we went to the Bronner Brothers hair show, we needed like $20,000. When we launched at Target, we raised like $725,000. But it's remarkable because every penny of that went to inventory for the most part. Some of it went to like building a website and those types of things. But, you know, so it's based on where you are. It depends on where you need to start, you know? But for, you know, and in the beginning, it was like $1,000, if that, you know, I just bought some ingredients at the store because I worked at Whole Foods, and I just made something based on that, you know? So it doesn't have to necessarily cost a lot. As your business changes, that tells you when you need to shift and change, you know? And it's better to not do that until it's really called for. You know, I have investors till this day that are like, look, just raise the amount of money that you need. But the investment community in prior years, I'm sure now it's much different. The investment community would say something else. You know, think about what you need and double it. You know, and those are two schools of thought. But in the beginning, just focus on what you need so that you don't, you know what I mean?
And to even overwhelm yourself. So I think, like I always say, entrepreneurship always comes with a level of sacrifice, right? So whether it's with, like, it's just no way around it, but that's with greatness. All things require a level of sacrifice. So whether it's with your time and putting together your business, growing your business, but also in money, how you are actually, like this first $1,000 that you needed, a lot of times that is going to come out of your pocket, right? So maybe that means you're not going out to eat this day. You're not doing the $50 brunch, right? Or you're not getting your nails done. And it's really those things that you just have to decide, like, is it worth it?
Yes. Is it worth it? And if you think for a second that your business isn't worth it, then you're not the person that should be in business.
Real
you
words.
have to be relentless about the worth it. Like you constantly have to live in a place of this is worth it. This is what matters. Because in the beginning, even till now, honestly, your business is a newborn,
Mm-hmm.
and it
is.
needs humans to live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it and that grows as the business gets older and matures and makes more money and doing all that stuff. But even in the beginning, it will require everything of you, everything, you know? So like I was talking to a friend last night. I did I'm just here for the food, that podcast. I talked to Melissa Ford last night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying, she was telling me how she makes body butters. And she's like, she'll make 2 or 3 and she'll be tired, you know? And she's like, I just don't know. And I'm like, sister, that means it's probably
That's
in the
not
business
for you.
because you cannot be that way. Because especially if you want to get in the consumer packaged business field, it is so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let anybody else tell you anything else, because if they do, they are lying. This business is so hard. If it's a thing, if it's a little lifestyle business, that's different. That has hardness to it, but you don't really need that thing to be anything major for you. You just want to live off of that thing, right?
Right.
But if you want to have something that's high growth, scale, acquisitions, right? It is so hard to do, you know? And you cannot for a second deviate from the I want to vibe. You just can't, you have to just want to. You have to want to see whatever your North Star is. You have to like pledge allegiance to that shit. You cannot deviate from that star because you got to make it there.
Right.
So it's like you're building a spaceship. Think about how hard this is. It's like you're building a spaceship, but you've never worked for NASA. You understand what I'm saying?
It was like, yes, it's incredibly difficult.
It's not easy to do. When I went my first Target meeting, my Target buyer told me, B, I don't know if you're going to be able to do this because what I'm going to ask you to do is almost physically impossible. And she was not lying.
Wow.
It is hard. You know, it's beautiful, but it's hard.
Right. So, and on the sacrifice piece, I think it's also another misconception, like once you get started, then all the money just rolls in magically. And so, but the reality is a lot of times entrepreneurs do not have the money to pay themselves.
Of course.
Right. And so I just want to make sure that the students realize that it's not like a graduate and then you start cashing in the checks yourself and depositing that in your bank account. That's not how it really works. So how long did you go without a salary, building the business as if it was your full-time job and maybe making a little bit of money or close to nothing?
Me, Simon, and Linda, I didn't start making money until 2018.
2 years ago.
So 2 years ago. I never took a salary from Honey Pot until 2 years ago.
And you started in 2014.
Technically started in 2012.
2012.
So I did this for 6 years without, you know, if it was like, maybe there was a couple times where there was like an emergency situation and Honey Pot might have had money. And I just had to take a little something, but it was never more than maybe 2 or 3 times a year that happened.
Right.
So I worked a full-time job and I ran Honey Pot, but because at that time my salary had increased and I knew that I couldn't do Honey Pot unless Honey Pot could pay me that salary or more. So what I did is I hired somebody, Antoinette, who was like who's still here till this day. I hired her and she would pack boxes, make, wash. I mean, she would work 12, 14, 15, 16-hour shifts because the type of job that I had to travel 3 to 4 weeks out of the month. So her and I would have to bust it, like go crazy
Batch
on
out
the weekend
everything.
making products. Exactly. So I just worked nonstop. I probably worked like 100 hours a week between traveling by car, managing a territory, managing people, like working for a startup, and then I was still running my own startup.
Which is a lot.
Yes, but again, it is school for what is happening right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can't work a job and own a business that's actually, even if it's making a little bit of money, if you can't do those two things that are remarkably hard at the same time, again, it might not be the best place for you, because once your business has grown and scaled, it's like you got 6 jobs. It's like Honey Pot fits into my life. So for me, it was good because it was school, because now I still work those same amount of hours.
Okay. Well, we have about 10 more minutes while we're waiting for Michelle to get back on the screen. We did have one question for you, Beatrice, so why don't we go ahead and answer that question.
Okay.
A question came in from one of our attendees, and it says, what is the most difficult thing you have had to face with getting your product out?
Wow. I think the most difficult thing was when we raised money. That was really hard, because we had never raised money before. And when you've never asked somebody for, for anything more than a couple $100, and now you got to ask them, like, I'm raising $1 million, it's hard. So that was hard, because it was partnered with also having to make payments to manufacturers so that we could launch at Target by a certain date. And so there were so many times that, like, we almost didn't have the money to pay the manufacturer because we were raising money as it went and making payments as it went. So that was hard, because I was still working then too. So I was working a job. My ex-husband is from Cuba, so I was getting him to America. I was raising money, and I was running Honey Pot with only like 2 other people at the time. So it was that was a hard time, but it was good, because it was like, when you get through hard times, it's like a rubber band. You stretch to that and you become stronger.
Okay. Part 2 of that question was, where can people find your products now? You mentioned Target earlier. Where can people find your products now?
You can find us at Target, Walmart, Walgreens. We're in a small amount of CVS stores. We're in Urban Outfitters, Free People, Wegmans, or you can go to our website. By June, we'll be in over 14 or 15,000 stores, like doors. But if you go to our website, thehoneypot.co, and then click on store locator, put in your zip code, it'll tell you the stores that we're in your area. Okay. Yeah. All right.
And say, yes, that's huge. Sorry, of course, technology. B, so like you were saying, now you're in 14,000, 15,000 doors, which is actually completely major for a brand that's only been a small business that's, been owned and operated since 2012. What was that initial contact with Target, right? Because that was, Whole Foods and Target, because those are the 2 retailers that gave you all the opportunity to be on a larger stage and attract more customers.
Whole Foods, I worked at Whole Foods, and so I knew who to talk to, and I was already going to meetings because I was representing brands. So what I would do is I would present those brands to Whole Foods buyers, and then I would walk out of the room, walk back in, and talk to them about Honey Pot.
That's this is the hustle that you were running. You were like, by any means necessary, this is going to get done.
And thank you. And then with Target, the buyer reached out to us. She had went to go get her hair done, and her hairdresser, they were talking about this new position that she had just taken at Target. And because she really like changed the game with feminine wellness at Target. And they were talking about vaginas, and then her hairdresser mentioned honey pot, and then she reached out to us in email. But that took a year to do, though. That was hard.
Yeah, it took a year to do, but that actually doesn't usually happen for most people.
It doesn't. We were really fortunate for that.
Right. And so kind of how you said you were in alignment, like everything has been in alignment for you.
Yeah. It feels like that.
Yeah. I mean, and actually that's how it is for all of us, truthfully, right? When we are aware and acknowledge that everything is working together for us, whether it was from, you working in the pharmacy as a pharmacist assistant, to your grandmother, like literally the ancestors giving you this like magical like potion elixir.
Right.
So basically that's what it was. To you, even because when you were at Whole Foods, you were a cashier initially?
No, I worked in Whole Body.
Okay, you worked in, okay. But that even positioned you to have those conversations to get your product in store. And so I do want to touch on that spirituality piece and realizing that at all times, like we said, you were completely supported in this. And what are some of those like spiritual or grounding practices that like have guided you along the entrepreneurial journey?
There's been a lot. I practice an Afro-Cuban religion, or I do it. I shouldn't even say I practice it because it's my life, which, sits at the cusp, or sits at the base of everything, of helping me to like understand or understand. Because even when I had that dream with my ancestor, I had just came back from initiating into the religion that I live in, right? So that helped me to be open enough to see her and experience her the way that I did. But also being able to like really be here right now and appreciate right now exactly for what it is, not trying to make it what you want it to be. I think in the more recent future, in a way, that's become a religion to me, because that's all that there is. And so, so being able to respect that and understand that and appreciate that has been a big thing that I do in my daily life. I'm not always good at it, but I work at it and I want to be good at it, and I think just surrounding myself with the right humans, and the right humans is so relative. Right. I mean, that means different things to different people. But I don't surround myself with anybody who doesn't understand the present moment, who doesn't understand that we're going to die, so we should live, and that also are doing things professionally that give them exactly what they want. So just understanding as humans that when we look at the world, when I look out my window and I see all these houses and gardens and, all these things, right? Anything that's not organic to earth is made up. Right. Humans did those things. So if you can look out and as far as you can see, right? And understand that humans did all the things that you can see, that means that you can do anything you put your mind to. Like, not everybody can go to school. And even though you guys aren't able to graduate, the experience that comes with, there's an experience that comes with walking on the stage and showing your family that you did this and it worked. But if you just look at it for what it is, whether you graduate on a computer screen or you cross a stage, that moment doesn't matter. What matters It's all the things that you had to do to get you to this moment. I bet you there's some people on here, this is like, they're like first generation college students. Like, that's dope, you know? So I think being able to stand in that moment and appreciate whatever life brings to get you to the next moment, you know, that's also a major way to keep yourself aligned with the things that matter. And I think lastly, understanding what you have control over and what you don't. And if you don't have control over it, you may harp on it for a second, but die to it because you can't do anything about it anyway. Right? Just get back over to here where you know, if you can control it, then you do. But you know, that makes my life really enjoyable.
Right. And I think, I mean, these are all principles that we can live by. Like I said, whether it's life, success, and whatever you want to create and build and bring forth into the world. And like you said, when you step back and realize that everything was created, you realize there's no limits, there's no bounds to this thing, right? And so there's a quote that I love, and they say, if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand.
You can.
And that in itself allows you to realize that there's infinite possibilities, right? And everyone doesn't always have to get it. And that's what I always say, like, everyone won't always get it. But specifically in your case, if that dream was given to you, it's up to you to bring forth into the world. And so that dream was given to you, and you had a choice. You could have allowed it to just stay a dream. You could have just made it and allowed it to cure you. But you saw that, like, this is something bigger. There's other people that need and can, you know, be empowered by this product. There's other women that need this as well. And so, again, it all starts with a choice, and whatever that is. And I know the students that are on the line, they're here because they're holding something. There's something that they know that's in them that they have to get out. And a lot of times they don't know the strategies and what exactly it's going to take to get there. But they know it's just something. And so hopefully we were able to provide some tools and resources to support them along the journey. But also, I do want to ask, before we wrap up the conversation and go into Q&A, because, I mean, this has been major in February with Black History Month, your conversation or your commercial with Target, right? And I saw, like, everything popping up on social media. I'm like, whoa, what's going on?
Before you finish that, I just want to say something because I don't want to forget. You don't have to know. I just wanted to say that to everybody. The only thing that you have to know and get comfortable with is let your ego die, and always feel comfortable. If you're asked to do something, always be okay with being like, I don't know how to do that. One of the most important things to know about being in business is to respect the fact when you don't know. And that's like all the time. So I just wanted to say that. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. You're fine. And I think that's a valid point. Because even I said in one of my, like, stories on Instagram before, is that so many times, like, we are stuck on this side questioning the how, right? We're trying to figure out how all the pieces are going to fit together, right? How am I going to get the money? How am I going to get the contacts? I don't know this certain person, or I don't have the knowledge, or whatever the case may be. And a lot of times we get so stuck in those questions and all of those unknowns that we never move. And when you realize, you just take the one step, and you just have to trust. And you have to trust that you don't know, and things will come.
They will
come. And it just is what it is. That's how it works. And so,
look at it how you raise a baby.
Yeah.
You don't. Most first-time mothers don't have a damn clue about raising a baby. You know what I mean? But you figure. But guess what? You figure it out.
So I was like, what is happening? What did she say? Like, oh my God, I was like kind of scared for you. I was like, what happened? And then when I actually researched it and saw, I was like, I don't know, I was like, okay, what you spoke was truth, right? And so you were a stand for Black women, women of color, who are on this entrepreneurial journey, who are building a dream. And so what do you think was, why do you think you being a stand for one group of people, other people felt, I don't know, marginalized or, I don't know, discounted in that conversation that you were starting?
I cannot answer that. I can never answer that, because those people are a reflection of what their life gave them and what they had been taught, and how they, in through a lens that allowed them to see into the world. The only thing that I know that I could stand by was what I felt and what I said. And it wasn't contingent upon anybody else's opinion of that. But it's hard to say, but people have their reasons, and they should be allowed that. Those people's opinions mattered to them. They didn't much matter to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no disrespect. It's just that I chose my side, right?
And you get to choose the energy, you said that.
Yeah. Michelle, you're muted again.
Okay, sorry. I was just saying that you didn't want that energy, right? Well, if you would have given it your attention, then it would have, given it more fuel to the fire. And I love that you didn't, that you didn't give it that, and you allowed a community of women to come and garner a level of support that was kind of unprecedented, right? That showed you that we also stand with you and that you're not alone in this. And that's a beautiful thing, because you was like, I said what I said, and that's power in that. But I do want to get into these last questions.
Okay.
So my name is Guynella, and I'm a senior majoring in social entrepreneurship and marketing. My fashion sewing company, Sew Itself, provides full designer needs for at-risk designers. At the moment, I am working to recruit competent people to join my team. What's your advice on hiring?
Understand your business, and understand those job descriptions, and understand how you are going to take those humans on to work within your company. That it's really dope that she's already hiring. But I think the only way to do it with how you're doing it is to do it, and I could tell you a million things to pay attention to, but the fact that you've already that you could even pose your question this way shows that you know how you want to move. And so the biggest piece of advice that I would tell you is just to believe in yourself, and believe in the dream, and believe in the North Star, and know what your business is, and execute on that business, and lead those humans, and respect that they've actually, once you've gotten them, that they've, in the way that you're going to choose them, that they also choose you. And keep in mind that they are not working for you, they're working with you. I think that will get you further.
Mm-hmm.
And it will communicate to the people that do choose to work with you and to execute on your dream, that that you're a good human, and that you're doing it because you mean it, and because you want to, and because you want to be the change that you want to see in the world.
Right. Thank you, Beatrice. Also, Courtney asks, what drives you to keep going during difficult times in your business?
The fact that I want to, man. I want to get through the times. I want to appreciate the people that have chosen to take this journey with me and build on something that's my dream, that came from a dream. I want to see the fruition. I want to see the fruit of that, because they've given so much of themselves and their life and their time and their stress and their everything that goes into this type of business. And they're here for it. So like that gets me through, because it's not just me anymore. Like I gotta be responsible. We are, me, Simon and Linda, co-founders of the company, like we are literally responsible for how 15 or 16 people feed their family. So if I have a moment of like not being strong, I got to get over that shit, because these humans have decided to come and work with me and build this thing with me. And there's not really any time to be down. I'll have the moment, but I can't stay there long. So I just let myself have it, and then I move on.
Yeah, and that's a good, like, just life lesson. Like you were saying, like, there's just so much you can't control. It's only you can control your response to it.
Right.
Now, Dominique asked, because earlier in the conversation, you referenced that the Target rep said that it was going to be very difficult for you to handle. What exactly were you referring to?
I was coming in as a business that was, at zero, saying to a retailer, because my training had taught me how to get to a yes. My training did not tell me that I needed to have access to capital, constant access to it, that I needed to understand supply chain, that there was so much about it that I was just coming in as a layperson, as a human who worked a job, and I took those skills and put them to work, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And once I figured out what I didn't know, like there was no backseas.
And I think I hear a lot of people with products, they're like, I want to get into major retailers or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, you have to understand that's not actually all that it's cracked up to be. Like, it's actually very hard. I was like, first start with direct to consumer. The margins are better there. You build your following there. And when Target comes to you, or Macy's or whatever retailer comes to you, they're asking for not 500 items. They're asking for tens of thousands, right? And so if you're trying to grow too fast, like, how are you going to get that money? How are you going to be able to, even provide the SKUs to even maintain a contract and an opportunity like that?
Yeah, because when you start working with the manufacturer, it's not here's the thing. When you get into Target's not paying you for 90 days. But you still have to deliver on, in our case, we had gotten into 1,100 doors with 4 items, right? Each door taking in 3 units a piece per product, right? So, like,
what's the math
crazy
on that? How many? That's a lot of pieces.
I'm gonna tell you the math. Just one second, because I just want you to understand. That is 13,200 units per product for their first order. Target orders every single week, right? So you needed to have, and this is only in a perfect world that you only sold like a couple units per week at each store. Target needs to have 52,000 products for that first month, right?
That's insane. Mm-hmm.
It's insane. So like our first order was 50,000 units of everything. We had no clue. That was only a month worth of product. We didn't understand how to build a procurement plan and project. I mean, Simon's an accountant, but like being an accountant and being a CFO is completely 2 different worlds, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it's the best way to do it is what you just said, is to start off with a direct to consumer business. If you want to get spicy, add Amazon in there, but use an Amazon consultant if you have the money, right? If you can figure out how to manage $100,000 worth of sales, that means that you figured out how, you've bought things to sell things, to buy things, to sell things, to get you to $100,000 to $2,000 to $200,000 in sales. If you can figure out how to get to, let's call it $150,000 to $200,000 in sales, you can start talking to a retailer, right? But don't do it until you've gotten there, right?
Because it can actually put you out of business.
It can not only can it put you out of business, it will just be a terrible way to go out of business because you will just be in a ridiculous amount of stress. And when a retailer puts you out, they don't just say we're going to stop ordering your product. They're going to say we're going to charge you for all that product. And
right.
Yeah.
So I have a question from Jalen. At the receiving a myriad of feedback from your Target commercial, how did you feel? How was the planning? Did Target give you free realm to say whatever message you wanted? Going in, did you consider how controversial it would be perceived by audiences?
So when you shoot a commercial, it's crazy because it takes like 3 or 4 days to shoot something that lasts 30 seconds.
Right.
So that scene that you guys saw with me sitting down, right? Somebody was talking to me and asking me a lot of questions. We probably sat there for like an hour. So he asked me hundreds of questions. I didn't choose that content, Target did. About the part of the question where about it being controversial, one thing that you have to understand, which is hard to understand if you don't understand the landscape of venture capital, right? Which is loaded, but Target came to Honey Pot. It's not just to Honey Pot, but they presented to many brands because they wanted to put together a commercial that could live for 2 months. The first month was Black History Month,
and then
the second month was Women's History Month. So they had to have a Black-owned, woman-owned business to be able to sit in that spot. So I didn't say that I wanted Black girls. I wanted to be successful so that other Black women and girls would have an example. I didn't say that because of those things. I said that because of the landscape of venture capital. Honey Pot does well. To make a long story short, we make it easier for the next Black girl that goes into a boardroom, because if Honey Pot sells for easy numbers, this isn't my goal. I have a goal number. I'm just giving you one. If Honey Pot sold for $100 million, the next Black woman that goes into meet with a venture capitalist that has a similar business model, Honey Pot is now a comp for her. Right? When I built my comps, when I was raising capital, we had Sundial to pull on as a Black-owned business that had sold for over $1 billion, right? But the other businesses that we had were not Black, right? And they were not necessarily women, right? The reason why it's so important for both of those things to align is because that's how the venture capital world knows to pay attention to that type of business, right? There's not enough of us growing and scaling and then selling. The venture capital world doesn't care because they're not seeing that happen in the marketplace. So that was me saying what I said was loaded because it had all of that in it, right? A white woman who's in business, it's still hard for her to raise capital, but it's a lot harder for me to raise capital, right? And some of that is for reasons that are ridiculous, but some of that is because there's not enough Black women-owned businesses scaling and growing out of control and then selling. So some of that is our responsibility. And when I said that, that was me saying that I'm here for that responsibility, because it's not just about us. It's about what comes behind us and what's coming with us. We all have to be an example.
Right. And I got that. And I think the people who received it, well, hopefully it was received for the people that you were speaking to. You know, unfortunately, some people will always take things out of context and will, like we said, everyone will shift things, whatever energy they want to put towards it, they can. But that was not your stance. That was not your
Not
stance
at all. It really, that was really focused on understanding what it means to be a Black woman in business in America.
Right, which is a reality.
Which is a real reality, and it's changing every day.
Mm-hmm. I also have another question in the chat, and then we'll be wrapping up. What advice would you give me on marketing, starting my clothing line, no budget, and ways to network in Atlanta? So she's a aspiring fashion entrepreneur.
Build up as much content as you can. Build your community in the best way that you can. And in the beginning, it's going to cost you, but don't take it on. Give it away to give it away to people so that the person that you give it away to likes it, love it, tells their friend, and then they tell their friend, and then they tell their friend. In the beginning, it's so essential. You know, when I had a cleaning business, my first cleaning was like, I did this special on Craigslist. My first cleaning was $35. So basically I was giving it away for free. And I would clean a 2-bedroom apartment or a 3-bedroom house for $35, right? Mm-hmm. And I would clean that house for $35 as if that person was paying me $300, right? But it's because I knew that if I did it so good this first time, they're going to be willing to pay whatever I ask them to pay because I've shown that I'm a good cleaner, right? Right. It's the same practice with your clothing company. You make something that's super cute and you give it away to 10 people, even if those 10 people told 10 people, look at the exponential growth that can happen, all because you gave away 10 pieces of clothing. Right? So don't feel like if you give it away, you're just giving away money. If you give it away, that's your skin in the game to show that you're, you know, that you plus what it's going to do is it's going to show you if people like what you make. Right? And if they like what you make, whoever you give it to, when you give it to that person, tell that person, don't tell them that I gave this to you, right? You want to act like you love it and they should go and buy it or whatever, right? You gifting that person is so that person can now be a marketer for you. And pay attention to who brings in the most people. That's the person you need to constantly be giving shit to, right?
And it's not always based off of the people who have the largest following either.
It's not. Sometimes it can just be your super cute friend who always has on something cute and people just like it, you know? They may not even have a following at all, you know? But I only say that because that's how I've done things and how I do things. That's just one school of thought.
Well, Beatrice, I know, right? The struggle with Zoom. Beatrice, thank you so much. I don't want to take too much more of your time. You were amazing, amazing, amazing. Like I said, there was so much hype. There were so many people hitting me up, excited to hear from you. And again, your story is inspiring. And I pray that the students were able to find the inspiration to continue along their journey wherever they are, and realizing that there's so much that we can't control, but we have all of the power still in that. So
exactly.
Yep. The world is what it is right now. So, and there's nothing we can do about it, but there's still beauty here. There's still lessons to be learned. There's still creation that's meant to be brought forth into the world. So thank you all for joining this conversation. Again, we'll be doing this hopefully in a couple months live and in person. Hopefully life will resume. But thank you all for joining. Jackie, Denise, thank you again from Georgia State Entrepreneurship Program and from the Leadership Program for hosting this conversation. And we look forward to many more. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. Have a great one.